Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here with another Friday Reads. Usually on Fridays, I have both a book and an audiobook to talk about. Today, I was reading the same book in print and listening to it on audio because I wanted to finish it in time for my book group. And that is The Book of Lost Friends by Lisa Wingate. So my book group read Before We Were Yours, her earlier novel, which was excellent. We all enjoyed it, got a great rating in our group. And so I was looking forward to reading this one. I absolutely loved this book. It's so special. I think she did the same thing in Before We Were Yours. She's got two different narratives here, one in the past and one, I'll say present day. It's 1987, which, I don't know, to me still feels like present day. I know that was a long time ago and is definitely in the past. This takes place, both timelines take place in the town of Augustine, Louisiana. So in 1875, a young woman named Hanny is a freed slave. She is 18 years old, and 10 years earlier, during the war, the owner of the plantation sent both his family and the slaves off to Texas. Now, the problem is he trusted his son with the slaves, and his son, instead of taking them to their property in Texas where they'd be safe, he decided to make some money by selling them off along the way. So Hanny was only 6 years old, but she clearly remembers losing every member of her family one by one as they drove west toward Texas. So now it is 1875. She's 19 years old. She is the only one of her mother and aunt and 8 siblings and little cousin who made it back to the plantation after the war. What she wants most in the world is to find her family. But she doesn't even think that's a possibility. So in Louisiana, since the war ended 10 years earlier, she and the few other slaves left there became sharecroppers. And the sharecropping contract that they signed states that after 10 years of being sharecroppers, they would own the land, 40 acres. So that time is coming up, and she's worried that the mistress of the plantation is really cruel to the slaves. She's worried about them keeping up their end of the deal. So she overhears the daughter of the plantation, who is 16 years old, talking to a half-sister who has come up from New Orleans, the half-sister that is never spoken of. And the two of them are talking, and their father is off in Texas. He's been gone a long time. The half-sister, who's half-black from New Orleans, is very worried about her inheritance. But she also really loves her father and is worried about his health. So he's off in Texas. So the two of them set off for Texas. Well, the two of them set off to talk to their father's lawyer. And a whole bunch of stuff happens, but Hanny ends up going along with them. So the three of them are reluctant companions. None of them like each other, but they all have a reason to seek out the man who owns the plantation. Hanny wants to make sure her sharecropper contract will be found when he dies. And the two daughters want to make sure that he's okay and that their inheritance is okay. So they set off for Texas. In the later timeline in 1987, we've got a young woman, I think she's about 25, Her nickname is Benny, and Benny has come to Augustine, Louisiana, to teach. She signed up for this program to pay off her student loans by teaching in this rural community that is really in desperate need of teachers. So it's her first year teaching. She is teaching English, high school English, and her only teaching experience previously, her student teaching was done in like a well-off suburban high school. So this is completely different for her. First of all, there are no books in the classroom. She's not sure how she's supposed to teach literature without books. She finds some battered copies of Animal Farm, but her students can't even focus on that because they are working, trying to earn money to keep their families' homes and feed their siblings. They are worried about missing parents in prison. Their families are, just in a shambles. And she sees almost immediately, on her first day, one of her students faints from hunger in her class, or nearly faints. She realizes, there's a lot going on with these kids. So the novel goes back and forth between these two stories. Where Benny is staying in Augustine is a home owned by the family that owned the plantation that started the town. And she meets a man who is from that family. And eventually I won't give any spoilers, but Benny gets the kids involved in looking into their genealogy, into their family histories. And so these two stories from 1875 and 1987, you start slowly to see threads of where things weave together. And I love that in a book anyway. But I'm also finding that both of these stories, sometimes in a dual narrative, you like one of the stories better than the other. I loved both of these stories and both of these main characters, and just an excellent, excellent book. Historical fiction, but with so much more to it. Definitely highly recommend The Book of Lost Friends by Lisa Wingate. And it was excellent on audio too, with different narrators for the two different narrators. I haven't started my next book yet, but I know what it's going to be. I am going to read Ladder of Years by Anne Tyler. I mentioned to my family before Christmas that I liked Anne Tyler and that I had only read 3 of her books. And so I got a whole pile of them for Christmas, which was wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. My son gave this to me, and can't wait to dive into it. So I would love to know, what are you reading this weekend? Let me know in the comments down below.